Here's what you should know about your local housing market in this week's market update. This week, we're looking at stats for Morristown, Chatham, Madison, Harding, Mars Plains, Mendham, Chester, Bernardsville, Basking Ridge, and Randolph. Before we get into the details of the stats this week, one thing I'd like to point out that we're seeing, and I think I mentioned it last week, is that we're seeing a noticeable divide in the market. I'm still seeing these crazy bidding wars in the lower to mid market. Pretty much anything under $1 million, $1.2 million, we're seeing fly off the shelves. We're seeing wild bidding wars, multiple offers, homes selling way above list price. That's not new. We've been used to that for years. However, something that we have not been used to, that we are getting readjusted to, is the higher end market seems to be slowing down. Not just myself and my own personal experiences, but speaking with my colleagues as well. Those higher end homes, not quite sure exactly where that cutoff is. Probably around 1.2, 1.3, definitely over 1.5, 1.4, 1.5. Those buyer activity is dropping off substantially to where we're either getting few showings or we're getting showings, but those buyers are just reluctant to act and make a purchase. So to give you an example, because the weekly stats that we normally run, the under contract sold and new listings, aren't going to give a good picture of that. Hopefully they will as we move forward and that works its way into the under contracts and sold. However, with the lower and mid markets really still running hot, it might not fully show itself in the stats the way we normally run them. So I went back and I pulled every single house in the towns that we're looking at that were listed in the month of April. So now we are at the end of May. Okay, so we're looking at houses that were listed anytime in April, last month. So they've been on the market so they were listed a month or two ago. Out of those homes, there were 149 homes in these towns listed during that time frame. Out of them, 23% of them are still active and 13% of them have been taken off the market. Okay, so active or withdrawn, 37% of the homes that were listed in April have not gone under contract or sold. 63% of them have gone under contract or sold. So that's kind of a staggering number. I mean, yes, a majority of them have accepted an offer and possibly even closed on their sale. But the fact that 37% of all the homes in these towns that were listed above $1 million in April have not sold. So that gives you a little bit of a picture into how that higher end market in these towns is slowing down a little bit. So if you're thinking of selling in these price ranges, the market is still fine, but we need to adjust our strategies. These ambitious pricing strategies that we were doing, not only getting away with, but actually made sense for the last year or so. We're now adjusting our pricing strategy. Do anticipate more days on markets, but also anticipate, not getting these astronomical numbers. For a while, we were pricing to the recent sales, which is typically what we do. Now I'm taking a closer look at the list price of those comparable homes, because those are the numbers that really attracted the offer, and those sale prices may have been an anomaly. You might have had 10 offers, but your first place offer might have been way higher than your second, third, and fourth place offers. So it might not have been a totally true picture of the value of those homes. So that being said, let's get into our normal stats this week. Once again, we're looking at Morristown, Chatham, Madison, Harding, Mars Plains, Mendham, Chester, Bernardsville, Basking Ridge, and Randolph. In these towns this past week, we saw 63 homes come on the market. That's a 2% decline over last week. Out of these, 50 of those were single-family houses, and 13 of them were condos or townhouses. The average list price of these homes was $1,225,000. Total inventory. The total number of homes actively on the market is up from last week. Nothing staggering, but the fact that we're seeing an increase is certainly somewhat indicative of the what we're seeing on the front lines in the market. So we currently have 287 homes actively on the market in these towns. That's a 3% increase over last week. homes sold. Once again, homes sold are our most complete data, but our least current data. Typical home, a quick closing is 30 days. A long closing is typically about 90 days. The average we typically see most homes contract to close is about 60 days. That's 2 months. So most complete data, but we do anticipate that this data is slightly lagging, so the market may have shifted since then. But this past week, the homes that sold, there were 24 of them. The average list price was $1,199,000. The average sale price was $1,318,000. So this past week, homes in these towns sold for an average of 11.8% above the list price. Now that is actually every single town we saw sold for a pretty high number above the list price, except for one, Harding. We had one sale that sold at list price. Otherwise, we saw, Basking Ridge, 6.7% above list price. Chatham, 9.7% above list price. Mars Plains, 8.7% above list price. Morristown and Mars Township, 10.7% above list price. Randolph, 11% above list price. Bernardsville, 14% above list price. Madison, 22.5% above list price. And Mendham, 23% above list price. That is wild. The two things that I'd like to break down a little more for us next week and also see if they shake out in the numbers is what if there's a discrepancy between under $1 million and over $1 million, or whatever that price break might be in that town to get into the luxury market, because we are seeing a divide on the front lines. And also, as we move forward in time, if those numbers start to tamp down, if the market truly is quieting down, like it seems like it might be, if those numbers quiet down as we see the homes that are currently, have been listed in the last month or two that are slowly going under contract and selling, catching up. Keep in mind also, if homes take longer to sell, then the sold data will take longer to come out and give a true indicator of what the market was. So with the home selling fast, we also going to see the sold data update more quickly. But if the homes start selling slower, that sold data will take longer to give us a true representation of where the market is or was. Under contract, this past week we saw 43 homes go under contract. That's the same amount of homes we saw go under contract last week. The average list price of homes that went under contract this past week was $1,042,000, and the average days on market for the homes that went under contract actually decreased from last week. Now we had 16 days on market for the homes that went under contract. That's a 23% decrease from last week. So we've got a mix of anecdotal, frontline, current, real-time feedback from myself and other agents, and some true, complete market data, while it might be a little bit lagging and untimely. So we're going to keep tracking this going forward, compare the two, and really try to gain a full picture of the market. Is it staying strong where it is? Is it slowing down? Is it dividing even more between high end and then the middle market and the low end? So thank you so much for checking in with me. I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll catch you again next week.